Welcome everyone to our 8th grade planning night for the class of 2027. My name is Jessica Smedley and I am the District Director of School Counseling. Happy to be here with you tonight. The class of 2027 is very special and near and dear to my heart. It has been since they started kindergarten for just a variety of personal reasons. So I'm very excited to welcome them to Hillsborough High School. I'd like to introduce Jeff DeLolo, our current high school principal.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. It's an exciting time. You know, what you're going to experience today, hopefully, is the experience you've had in your time in the middle school and earlier in Hillsborough, which is that we've got some wonderful programs and some great opportunities for your kids. What you'll see is that we have a whole host of supervisors who are just excellent subject area experts. They're one of our great strengths, great leadership, and I'm really looking forward to answering your questions and having you in the days ahead. So welcome, and thank you so much for joining us. Back to you, Ms. Smedley. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to go ahead and share our presentation. For those of you who may be listening in the car, maybe on the way home, or not on a device that you can be watching, we will have this recorded, this entire event recorded. We will post it on our website. We will also go through the other links that we have available for you at the end of the presentation. And we will I will ask Dr. Trabolsky to go ahead and send the link out so that if you have any information, we will also post our slide presentation online. So you don't have to take any kind of furious notes unless you really want to. And we invite you to just sort of sit back and relax tonight. Hopefully you're watching potentially with your current 8th graders so you can share information and talk about any questions and things following up. So go ahead and start our presentation here. Okay. Great. All right, so here we are, class of 2027. Very exciting. So tonight we have a lot of information. Don't worry, this will not be the first and will not be the only time that you get to hear this information. We have all of it is written and published on our website. We are here to help you. Tonight, you'll meet members of our supervisory team. You already met Mr. DeLolo, our high school administrative team, our school counseling team, our high school case managers on the child study team. We are all here and really take a team approach to making sure that we help your children get a successful start to high school, that they have a plan, a viable plan for getting them all the way through high school with whatever their thoughts of post-secondary, either education or post-secondary plans work may be. So tonight we're going to go over the high school graduation requirements. We'll take a look at college requirements. The program of studies, we'll talk about that. Our program of studies is basically consists of all of the requirements to get into classes, to stay in different levels, or to reach the next level of academic program. Also has a complete description of every one of our courses, information about prerequisites, and kind of some planning documents too that hopefully you'll find helpful. And finally, we'll end with a scheduling process and timeline. Okay, so I'm starting with our graduation requirements. So there's a lot on here, but students have all 4 years to complete everything. So our first requirement, we do require 4 years of English or language arts, and we have several levels that you'll hear about of all of our courses from our supervisors. 3 years of math, 3 years of science, and all of our core science classes are considered lab science, so they do need the lab science, but regardless of what course your children take next year, all would be lab sciences. 3 years of social studies, which consists of 1 year of world studies or world history and 2 years of US history. 1 year of world language, which I do asterisk the 1 year of world language. It is a minimum graduation requirement to earn a high school diploma in Hillsborough Township Public Schools. I would say that probably in the neighborhood of 85 to 90% of our students do enroll in more than 1 year of world language, and it is highly recommended, and in many cases, depending on the university that a student is interested in, can be required. And this is minimum. What I have on the screen here is minimum graduation requirements from high school. A lot of times we'll get into the advanced classes and more competitive colleges and universities that shift some of those requirements a little bit, which is part of a school counselor's job to explain to students and families as they come through high school. We need 1 year or 5 credits of fine, visual, or performing arts, 1 year or 5 credits of career and technical education, a half a year or 1 semester, that's 2.5 credits of financial literacy, 4 years of comprehensive health and physical education. And our program is a combined program. So students get 3 marking periods of phys ed and 1 marking period of 3 marking periods of phys ed, 1 marking period of health. And I'll talk a little bit more about what the 9th grade health program looks like in a little while. And then for right now, we have listed on here, we do know that there is by statute a New Jersey graduation assessment as determined by the Department of Education. As of this afternoon, when I looked on the state website, there is a graduation assessment listed, which is the New Jersey Student Learning Assessment. That is something that your children have taken through the last couple of years. We believe that to be the same test that your children will take. What years and what subjects count in terms of the graduation requirement is still to be determined. They haven't published that on their website. Certainly, as you move through this process, as soon as that information becomes available, expect a letter home about that with more details when the administration is, either or both from Mr. DeLolo as the high school principal, or it could also be coming from Dr. Feltry, our assistant superintendent. Okay, so a typical freshman schedule. Our students have 7 courses during the day that they take, and they have lunch. That is not a full period. So this shows you a typical freshman schedule, not in order. It's really just listed the subject. So all students have English, a math, which is dependent on the math that they're in now, their science, their social studies, which will be world history for everybody in 9th grade, their world language, which Mr. Lugo will talk about. They'll finally have some choice after several years of kind of being locked into their world language, or in some cases, perhaps not taking a world language through middle school and Aughton Road. They'll have health and physical education, an elective or a study hall. So we'll get into this a little bit more about what an elective is. You'll hear that there are a lot of different options for electives. So electives are student choice. We do ask our freshmen for a lot of choices and ask for people to be flexible, but an elective can be participation in one of our music programs, band, orchestra, choir, can be any combination of our half-year electives. So that would be 5 credits, up to 5 credits. Or students can also say with the transition, or perhaps some of our student athletes who want to have a study hall, they can do that for either the full or half year and wait to take their elective requirements until the subsequent years. And then everyone gets scheduled for lunch. Okay, so I'm going to hand this over to Mr. Datola, who's our K-12 supervisor of math.
Hi, everyone. As Ms. Smedley just said, I'm Casey Datola. I'm the math supervisor. So if you ever need anything or have questions, feel free to send me an email. And now we're going to talk about your grade 9 courses. So the students right now are either in Math 8, Math 8 ASI, Algebra 1, or Geometry. If you're in Math 8 or Math 8 ASI, you will go to Algebra 1 next year. Algebra 1, you would tend to go toward Geometry, and Geometry toward Algebra 2. Dependent on performance in the class is how we would see if it's a CP or an honors level course. Looking toward our required high school courses that students have to take, they have to take Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2. All of those courses must be taken at Hillsborough. So we'll get into options about when to take them, if it's something over the summer or a potential double up. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But those are 3 courses that are required, and they all have to be taken at Hillsborough High School. Other options we have are Algebra 3 Trig. Pre-calculus, we're introducing the new AP course next year. That's something that they could take as they get a little older. We're also going to have calculus, and we have 2 levels of AP calculus, whether it be AB or BC. That's Calc 1 and Calc 2. As we look at other options, somehow we just jumped to English. That's okay.
Yeah, sorry. I'm having a little bit of a remote control problem. Let's
It's okay. As she finds it, I'll just kind of chat about the other options we have for seniors. So seniors can go ahead and take, it depends on like your level of math, and it's the next one. Just perfect. So other options that they have as seniors, you can take statistics, CP, or an AP course. We have selected topics and applications of math. Those are for students who want a fourth year of math, are college bound typically, and aren't necessarily going toward like an engineering type path. So those are still good courses to take to prepare for college. Then students who are freshmen can't necessarily take the computer programming courses right away, but we have computer programming 1, an honors course. Those are both, and computer programming 2, an honors course. Those are both semester courses. Then we have 2 AP options, AP Computer Science A and AP Computer Science Principles. Within the next few days, there's going to be a new mapping with all these courses up on our website, so you'll see that. And you'll see like what courses students should take when, and that'll be up on the site soon. Now to talk about our options in terms of going into summer advancement courses. So geometry honors, current 8th grade students are eligible for this. If they perform well in Algebra 1 and are recommended for honors in 9th grade, they can take the class over the summer. Algebra 2 honors is not something that we have current 8th graders can take, but if you are a student taking geometry in 9th grade and you perform well to an honors level and you're in honors geometry, you could potentially be eligible for Algebra 2 honors the next summer. So if you are a current 8th grader looking to take geometry honors over the summer, you will be invited based on being recommended for honors as based on performance in Algebra 1. So details and payment information of that will be coming out in the near future, and that'll be sent out to the eligible students. Now, something just to talk about, you can't take Algebra 1 during the summer. I get asked that question relatively often because students want to progress. Algebra 1 is a foundational course that they have to take during the regular school year. And like I just said, if they qualify for honors from 8th grade Algebra 1, they may elect to take it over the summer. You have to be approved if you are taking something, if you're taking an academic course outside, and there's an option 2 process. But as far as option 2 goes, that's for computer programming and for a pre-calculus course. But again, you have to meet certain requirements to be accepted for those types of things. And if you're interested, that's something you talk to your counselor once you're at the high school, not going into high school. And I believe there was that, I don't know where the double up slide was that on the last one? I apologize, I must have missed that. So real quick, one more thing before I pass this off to Miss Lisa Keel. In terms of if you're a student who's planning on advancing mathematically and you're interested in doing something with potentially doubling up with geometry and with Algebra 2, that's something that should be a conversation with the teacher, something that should be a conversation with the counselor, and they have to perform very well in Algebra 1 in order for that to be an actual option. And that's something, if you have questions, you could feel free to talk to me about it, but that would be the student's elective as well. So that's something to keep in mind. That would be a math heavy schedule for the student. So I just wanted to make sure you knew that. And if you have questions, as always, like I said, you can always send me an email and I'll gladly talk with you. Now to pass it off to Mrs. Lisa Keel for science.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa Keel, like Casey said, and it's very appropriate for me to follow Casey because your students' science placement is directly linked to their math placement. On this next slide, you'll see this is a list of that they're either in algebra, geometry, or algebra 2, and depending on that math placement will dictate their science placement. They're either in environmental, biology, or chemistry as a freshman, and that follows their math. Next slide. So this slide kind of shows you a good a good idea of what different options. If they're in Algebra 1 CP, they're going to be an environmental CP. If they're in Geometry CP, they could be an environmental science honors, or they could be in biology CP. In order to be in environmental honors, which is a popular choice if your student would like to pursue an honors track, but is in a CP track for math, this gives them a year before going into biology honors and getting them ready for biology honors and letting their math catch up with them. That they also have the choice of biology CP though, if they are, and they should talk to their science teacher. Their science teacher will give them some great advice about which choice. If they're in geometry honors, they'll be in biology honors. And if they're in Algebra 2 CP, they would go to chemistry CP, and Algebra 2 honors, they would be in chemistry honors. So as you can see, there are a lot of different paths that your student can take as a freshman in science. If we look at the next slide, on the website, on the district website, you'll see that I've a whole bunch of common pathways, and this can show you different four-year plans for your student. So if your student starts in environmental CP, the following year they would have biology CP, then they have two choices, and then you can see it just keeps building and building. Now, even if they start in a CP class, there are also paths to change to an honors path. If we look at the next slide, I have just one example of a common honors path. If they start in biology honors and then go on to chemistry, then they can branch out in year 3, going to physics honors or AP physics. Each of these courses have prerequisites in terms of math course and of grade in the prior science course. And the next one. You can also see kind of a four-year view, and that you can switch between the two depending on how your student progresses through their program. I'd be more than welcome to sit with anyone who would like to talk about a four-year program as well. And they have tons and tons of options for different courses in terms of interests. And the next slide. So a question that I get asked often is, I'd like to double up in chemistry honors and bio honors as a freshman. If the student is placed in Algebra 2 honors and chem honors by May 1st, meaning they are already in geometry right now, they will have an option to list biology honors as their first choice elective. If they are not already in geometry and are not finishing it right now, that would not be an option to them. Placement, however, is not guaranteed and is on a seat available basis in the elective process. So what you have to remember is that every student who has biology honors as their primary student course for science needs to be placed first. And then the same way all electives are treated, it's as a seat available basis. And the next one. I also get a lot of questions about taking science in the summer. Science courses cannot be taken for high school credit or advancement between 8th and 9th grade. You must be in high school in order to apply for an option 2. It is a common application for someone to do biology or chemistry over a summer, but I will tell you that a summer course is in no way equivalent to a full year experience. Many students will pass their summer course only to fail the final. They must earn an 80% on to advance to the next course. So please keep that in mind when you are doing your 4-year plan. It is better to double up on a full year course than to try to kind of skip forward during the summer and then fall short at the end of the summer and have to repeat again. And I think that's it. And I'm going to pass it over to Mr. Lugo.
Muy buenas noches a todos. Bienvenidos. Me llamo Señor Lugo, and thank you for attending tonight. We are very excited about the ability for us to be able to share a little bit about the course selections and a little bit about our programs with you all. And we are also, very excited that up till now your students have been, enjoying and going through our courses. And just to share, as the students get older and go to the high school experience, that comes very quickly. So my name is Roberto Lugo. And as you can see, I'm the District Supervisor of World Languages and ESL. And as always, and as my colleagues have said, please feel free to reach out with any questions, any concerns, any things that you might have, an issue about. Our email addresses are our first initial last name at htps.us. And so mine is rlugo@htps.us. So we're here tonight to talk about your child's high school experience and the selections that they'll take, and for me particularly talking about world languages. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. So as you have noticed and as you have experienced, as your child as your student has experienced, they have kind of been locked in a language of their choice. And so as you see here on the slide, we can either have of the 5 languages that we offer at 7th and 8th grade: Chinese, French, German, Italian, and or Spanish. And the students do have an option to continue on with those languages. We have found that with our program, the way it is, it's been very successful. We have been offering for the past, I would say, about 5 years, the what's called the New Jersey State Seal of Biliteracy. And this is for seniors who have been taking our language or our native speakers and want to show to the state that they are bilingual. And so we've had very good success with our students who have progressed through 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, on through many who are juniors and or seniors who are taking the AP courses and are taking the test for this called the STAMP test to earn their seal of biliteracy. And we're getting a lot of students who are passing that test. So our program has been very successful. So the students do have the option, once they graduate 8th grade or get past or move on after 8th grade, to then choose a different language. So in 9th grade, we try to offer Chinese 1, French 1, German 1, Italian 1, Spanish 1, and then there are 3 other courses that we do offer at the high school. One is Latin, and that's a pretty popular course. ASL, American Sign Language, is also a very popular course. And El Español para Hispanohablantes, the running joke that I think I say it every year. So if you've heard my presentation before, then you know what I'm about to say. But that class, El Español para Hispanohablantes, if you don't know what that means, then it's probably not the right course for you. So that course is Spanish for Spanish speakers, and so we have those options there. You can go to the next slide, please. So the goal, and I would say, the most standard way that students, standard route that students take when they're getting into 9th grade, if they're not switching their languages or they're not, say, brand new to the district, and they're performing very well in their courses, they're going to be looking to go into level 2. And so as you see here, we do have some our entry criteria for students to get into level 2. And as you see, B average in 8th grade, and that's going to be based on the 1st and 2nd marking periods, because when we're making these choices, we are making them kind of, mid-February. And I'll talk about the placement exam in a second, but that's when we're doing these things. And so as you see, we want them to continue on with that B average during the 3rd and 4th marking periods, just to kind of, continue on and show that they're progressing along nicely. There will be a placement exam that the students will receive, and that will be kind of in the middle of February to late February. And this placement exam is this placement exam is something that will give us an understanding of where the student is and kind of their strengths and those kinds of things for the level 2 or the level 3 if they would like to go. And then also finally the recommendation from the current world language teacher. So if you go into the next slide, you'll see that it is possible for students to move on from the 8th grade to level 3. This year, last year as well, last year is more so than this year. We've been cautioning just because, much as you've heard with science and also math, where the experiences that, if students are looking for, as they were talking about, having a good experience and trying not to do the summer courses and those kinds of things, we've been very impacted by COVID and that has kind of taken a direct hit on the ability of our students to really get that exposure. We tried all that we could, we did a fairly good job in terms of the remote learning and all of that experience, but there's nothing that can compare to that classroom experience, that listening to the language every single day, that so all of those things come into play. And so we typically say that this going into level 3 will be for our top students, ones who have very motivated, really want to get that experience in for level 3, then 4, then AP, for their high school experience. So as you see here, A average in 8th grade, and in continuing with the A average, and then a 90% high or higher on the placement exam, and then as well as a recommendation from the current their world language teacher. So if we go to the next slide, this recommendation here, as we consider the ability of the students, our world language classrooms, we're really looking at 3 specific domains. We're looking at our interpretive ability, that is, can you take a piece of text, whether it be video, audio, and can you understand and communicate what is going on, not just the what, but also the why and the how. We have our interpersonal communication, that is, obviously, as you can know what it might mean, that is the communication, and this is not pre-written communication. This is, if I ask you a question, what's your ability to answer back, and those kinds of things. And then also we're looking at our presentational communication, and that is the ability to not necessarily make presentations, but to prepare things and to show that language ability. And so taking all these things into account, looking as well at our unit tests, our speaking assessments, and all those kinds of things, that really does play an important role in the teacher recommendation. And so they're looking at, for example, as you see here, the other factors to be considered. They're looking at their interpersonal dialogue. When they do these activities in the classroom, are they able to maintain those conversations? Are they able to add to the conversations and so on? Looking at the quality of their target language production. But also, as you would think with a level 3 course, it would be very rigorous, also in all of our levels. But as you know, that there will be maybe older students and those kinds of things in the level 3 classes. And so we're looking at the students' work habits, their motivation and maturity level, and those kinds of things that come into play when it comes to our assignments for world languages there. But we're very excited to be able to offer all of these languages. We're very excited to be able to, give your students a rich high school experience. And once again, very excited to be able to have the students, be very successful in the world language classroom. So with that, we'll pass it along, I believe, to Ms. Sheila Cooper, who will talk about the English department.
Thank you, Roberto. Good evening, everyone. My name is Sheila Cooper, and I'm the English Language Arts Supervisor. The ability to read a variety of texts critically and to craft a written response that matches both the purpose and the audience needed is a vital skill for all students. The English department is dedicated to honing these skills with our students. As Ms. Smedley pointed out to us, English is the subject that students will take all 4 years while they're at Hillsborough High School. This slide illustrates the options that are open for our incoming 9th graders. You'll see if they were in an advanced placed class, proficient, ASI, academic support, and a Read 180, they will go to an English 1 college preparatory class. English 1 honors is by invitation only. Students that are interested in the honors program have already completed like a Google form letting us know. That form was sent out a few weeks ago from Dr. Trabolsky. And students who do qualify for English 1 will receive notification about that. Next slide, please. Some of the performance criteria or student look-fors that we're looking for in order to be placed in an honors program that will be challenging but not too challenging are things like reading above and beyond required text. They have critical and analytical reading skills. They have critical and analytical writing skills, organize their writing in a sophisticated manner, recognize and apply advanced grammar principles, engage in meaningful discussion, and recognizes and applies sophisticated vocabulary in an authentic manner. Next slide, please. All right, some of the options for electives in the English curriculum. You'll see the ones that are semester courses on the left-hand side of your screen, and the ones that have an asterisk are open to 9th graders. And then you'll see we have one full year course, publications, which is our yearbook, which is an award-winning yearbook. Our team under Mrs. Barkin have for the last couple of years won pretty substantial awards for their yearbook publication. That is open for sophomores. Next slide, please. One of the summer advancement courses that we will allow incoming 9th graders to take is our public speaking course. Of all of the electives that the English department offers, this is our most popular. We end up running usually 5 or 6 different sections each year. The beautiful thing about this is that it also qualifies as one of our fine visual and performing arts graduation requirements. It is a wonderful class. So our teacher, Mrs. Levins, is offering an opportunity this summer to take it as credit advancement. Information about dates and payment will be sent soon, but if your child is looking to get a little bit ahead, this is one way that will do it. And what's beneficial is learning to public speak, which I don't know how any of you feel about doing it. Sometimes it's a little nerve-wracking. Tonight we're doing okay. Having this opportunity to practice this and learn how to do it comfortably and with ease. When I watch what some of these kids do at the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester, even in the summer, which is a short thing, it is truly astounding. Next slide, please. And that's me. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Abe Knoll.
Hi, everybody. My name is Abraham Knoll. I am the Social Studies Supervisor, K-12, and also the Supervisor of REACH. We can go to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about social studies. So this is the trajectory of social studies courses as students progress through the high school. It is required that they take 1 world history course and 2 US courses. Students must take at least 1 history course during the regular school year at Hillsborough High School. Their options as freshmen are World History Honors as well as World History CP. Students that qualify for World History Honors will be notified of their eligibility based on district criteria. So that is a department approval, and that will be going out. Well, once we have that information, you will be notified. I can take us to the next slide. Now, the course offerings. Social Studies has a number of electives that students are able to take. Of the semester courses, you can see the list that is there: America and the New Millennium, Community Connections, Economics, Gender Studies, Genocide and Holocaust, Government and Politics, Individual and Interpersonal Behavior, Race in the United States, Popular Culture, and Sociology. And then there are the full year, elective courses: AP Human Geography, AP European History, AP Macroeconomics, AP Psychology, AP US Government and Politics, and AP World History. Each of the electives do build upon each other from the semester courses to the full year courses. So you notice there is a common trend. For example, in the semester course listing, you have economics, and in the full year courses, they're able to take AP microeconomics and macroeconomics. And the same goes for individual and interpersonal behavior and AP psychology. So if your child is interested in learning more about these subject areas, they can gain an introduction through the semester courses prior to experiencing one of the full year courses. There is one full year advanced placement course that is available to freshmen, and that is AP Human Geography. The requirement, I'm sorry, I left that out on the slide, but the requirement for that course is a student must be enrolled in World History Honors in order to take AP Human Geography. And that's it. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Chris Ireland.
All right, thank you. We get to some good stuff now and some of our electives work. I always say that just because this is the fun stuff students get to take to kind of explore what they might like to do outside of their core content areas that may lead them into career choices later on. Just on a side note, in our Q&A, some of the answers for math is popping up with my name, and that is Mr. Detola, the math supervisor, is answering those questions. We just had a little bit of a cross with our links, and my name is popping up. So makes me sound good, but just want to let you guys know if you do have questions, follow up with Mr. Detola, because I'm not bad at math, but I will not be able to answer those questions. So let's get in and look at some of these programs and see what we can do with your students through high school. The visual and performing arts requirement, they have to take 5 total credits in the visual and performing arts before they graduate. So we start off talking a little bit about band, orchestra, and choir, because we do have a very large population of our students that take that in middle school. And it's kind of a slam dunk. If they're already doing those things, they're playing an instrument or singing. And I know some of the choir schedules can be a little tedious through ARIS and the middle school, but please just remember they do have opportunities with a lot of students, that all students participate in grades K through 4 with singing. A lot do it in 5 and 6 at ARIS. So they may even have some interest there just to pick it up and do it for one more year to get these credits out of the way. Our kids that play instruments, band and orchestra students, they're already playing. Couple things, like why wouldn't they sign up in high school? They worry, they're going to get stuck doing it all 4 years. They're not making a 4-year commitment, so you can reassure them of that. They're just coming into their freshman ensembles for those activities. They can stop after a year. If they're interested in continuing and their schedule is complicated, those directors are a great resource for talking to them about how they might be able to fit it into their schedule, how they might be able to do some of our ensembles outside of school. So it really helps get rid of those credits and just get that check mark done early on. Yeah, it's a lot easier than what they do now. The before school rehearsals, and so on and so forth, that all disappears. It's a class every single day. It is a lot easier. So I think we can take a lot of fears out from them. And by explaining that to them, hopefully make them feel comfortable and make them want to continue so they can get these credits out of the way. On the left side there, you'll see a website that we have set up, that tinyurl.com/music at HHS. It tells you a lot about the music activities, some of the extracurriculars, gives you some scheduling models into how it could possibly fit into their schedule. And it's a good thing. So a little bit more, we'll go on to the next slide. We'll talk about some of our other offerings here. This will just show you, they come into band their freshman year, they have freshman band, they have concert choir, which is really grades 9 through 12, but all of our freshmen start there. And then orchestra, we have one ensemble for that, that's grades 9 through 12. Band and choir do have some other ensembles. Band, concert band can be grades 10 through 12. So students who just keep plugging along, they love it. It's not necessarily like something they want to get real serious about. They just enjoy doing it. It's a great place to be. And then wind ensemble can be grades 10 through 12. That's an audition group. They audition for that every February, and that's an advanced level, as is our treble chorale and our mixed chorale, which are choir groups. Those are auditioned as well for grades 10 through 12. Those 3 ensembles can receive CP credit the first year they're accepted into it, and honors credit for every year thereafter. We are looking to start a show choir course next year. That's going to be for grades 10 through 12 too, but just so your students know that's something they might be interested in later on. And that is doing, think of Glee. It's kind of like choir and theater combined, kids dancing and running up and down the risers and putting on a show. And it should be a very interesting, fun class. So we're going to get that off the ground. So your kids, if they're interested later on, keep an eye out for that coming up. We'll go on to the next thing. There are some other musical electives. The kids can take guitar. It's a very popular class. If they have a guitar at home, that is especially beneficial so that they can practice a little bit what they're going over in class. There's a music technology and applications course where they get to work with some digital audio workstations and other music tech devices, guitar pedals, things like that, to explore how do they make sound effects, how do they kind of produce it. It's an introductory course. And then there's Music Theory 1, which goes over just basic music theory. Throughout the next couple slides, I'll show you that's kind of where they might start as freshmen. And then the other column is going to be where they might go. Some of the advanced courses, some of the level 2 courses. I know it's very confusing when you come in, and you're a freshman parent, you're trying to help your student make some decisions. It gets very confusing and overwhelming when you look at the program of study. So I try to keep this very much where you might start, where you might go. The where you might begin, that is those are the good things for freshmen to consider. Go to the next thing. Music offers a lot of extracurricular activities. Many of these do not have a curricular requirement. So, do they have to be in band to do marching band? No, not necessarily, but certainly recommended, and vice versa too. Kids that are in marching band, for some of the curricular ensembles, highly recommended, not required. But it'll definitely help them build up some of the strength in their lips and things that'll help them play at the higher level that we see at high school. So again, the students will receive information on these things throughout the year. They'll hear announcements. The more they're in our curricular ensembles, the easier it is to hear about these things because the teachers are able to make announcements in their classes every day. Will they try to get word out to the school? Yes, but it's certainly easier if they're in the classes. All right, next thing is coming up. So visual and performing arts, that was the performing arts, and this is the visual stuff. So our classical, fine arts. So the left column again is where you might start. So Art 1 is a full year course, goes over different mediums throughout the entire year. That takes care of the 5 credits they need for visual art. Crafts and digital art design, those are each 2.5 credits. They don't necessarily lead to anything subsequently. So if your child really likes visual art and thinks they might like to take some additional courses later on, these 2, they're great classes. They just don't necessarily serve as prerequisites for anything else. But digital photography, drawing, photography proper, we still have a darkroom. We still the kids like to develop film. They think it's a cool thing to do. It's a very popular class. Sculpture and ceramics, and video and film. All of those classes have more advanced counterparts that you see on the right side, or they serve as the prerequisites for some of the other ones. Like to get into a painting class, you really need to have that drawing class first. You need to be able to draw it and sketch it before you're going to add paint to it. So they feed into each other. And you'll see that in our program of studies. But again, there's columns there just to help guide you a little bit. Those are the ones that are great for freshmen to come in and start with. Next one. All right, so sorry you have to hear from me for a few minutes, but I have 5 different departments, so that's the fun part. This is business. So in our business department, where you might start, business presentations and marketing, 2 great classes for our incoming freshmen. Where they might go later on, we do offer an accounting 1 class. It's a full year course. There's a course in entrepreneurship. There's a course in law. Really great classes. You're going to hear me say a little bit, I will say now, our art teachers, our business teachers, our FACS teachers, some of our music teachers, they actually have some really significant professional backgrounds. So, the one teacher that teaches accounting entrepreneurship, he's been vice president of finance for some major corporations, decided to leave that world, come and teach with us for, I think he's in his 5th or 6th year now. The kids think that's great because he can bring some of that real world experience into the classroom, and he's turned out to be one heck of a teacher. So you'll see that in a lot of these departments as you get to know the teachers that I get to oversee. They have some really cool backgrounds that really benefit our students. So that's business in a nutshell. That is one of our smaller departments. So there are not a ton of classes there, but we do have a lot of students that come through them. So applied technology, again, the left-hand side, you're going to see, and I should mention business, applied technology, and we'll get to family and consumer sciences. They help meet the graduation requirements for basically career exploration. That's what we're in, that family life skills, VOTech, career exploration. They do 1 year of that, 5 total credits. So on the left-hand side, graphic arts, energy and power, technology, integrative STEM, mechanical drawing, web design, and wood technology. Those are all great classes for your freshmen to come in and take. Again, you'll see on the right side, they lead to some advanced classes. And, students that are into, going into school for graphic design, they're interested in engineering. A lot of those students will take advanced graphic arts. Some of the engineering students will take advanced drafting. The wood tech, some of our students that are looking for some skills outside of college, or just skills they like to hone to use around the house as they get to be adults, they'll want to take those advanced wood tech classes, and they're really good. Our students will go from building very simple things as freshmen in wood technology, and some of our seniors that are in wood technology 3 or advanced wood technology, they will be building full furniture sets by the time they're walking out of class. So it's a very good class. Again, the gentleman that runs that, the master woodworker, it is incredible what those kids take out of that room. So we'll head to the next one, family and consumer sciences. Yummy. All right, so where we might begin as freshmen, there are fashion design, intro to culinary arts and baking, very popular class, interior design, or nutrition, really wherever your child's interest lies there. One of the bonuses to intro to culinary arts and baking, not only will they learn the basics, they're also taught to clean up after themselves. So many parents like that feature. And the kids go home, they're pretty excited to kind of show off the recipe skills most of the time. There's a lot of nutritional sciences taught in those classes as well, that what goes into food, alternative recipes, dealing with allergies, so on and so forth. Again, the teachers in that department have very unique backgrounds. They're very good at what they do. That can lead to other areas that you'll see on the right with baking and advanced baking, culinary arts, advanced culinary arts. There's a family living course, advanced fashion, advanced interior. The students can get into some pretty interesting topics if they want to keep exploring in that department. And I'll say many do. The baking and advanced and culinary arts classes, the kids do like to go on and advance in those. So if they have interest there, or they're just not sure where to start as a freshman, and they think this might be more interesting than, let's say, a business class, and they want to start getting those career exploration credits out of the way, jump in and take one of those on the left-hand side. And I think we'll go on to financial literacy. So this is in our business department, but it is a separate graduation requirement. All students need to take this course sometime in their high school career. So it's a 1 semester, 2.5 credits, has to be done. It can be the financial literacy course, or in the social studies department, it can be the economics, or it can be AP micro macroeconomics course. So if they do not plan for that and get that in their schedule, it goes to, there's a summer program that they can start doing after their 9th grade year. This course is recommended, financial literacy, we recommend for grades 10 through 12. Well, if parents ask all the time, well, why don't they do it in grade 9? We have found it's a very large transition. They're coming from 8th grade into 9th grade. And in financial literacy, we start talking about, well, here, take a career survey. What careers might align with you? What might you like to do? Fine, we land on one you'd like to explore. They use that as a project-based topic for the rest of their course when they're planning out salaries and take-home pay and taxes. And so you're taking a student from 8th grade, you're like, let's start talking about what you're going to do for the rest of your life, because you just got to high school. It gets to be a little bit much for them. And then some of the math that's associated with it too. If they're not really strong in math, when they haven't really developed too many skills in that, it becomes very overwhelming in that course. So we started recommending that for grades 10 through 12, having much better success in there. So there is a summer course they can do after their 9th grade year that we offer. There's also online opportunities that their guidance counselors can steer them, or school counselors can gear them towards. Again, they are not, in-person instruction is always going to be the best thing. The online version is it's all asynchronous. The students pretty much go through the class on their own, and they do not spend the entire time on all the financial stuff. There's a lot of government that's brought into those online courses as well, where our teachers are very passionate and we'll bring in really everything to do about financial literacy. I will just add before I turn it back over to Ms. Medley, people will ask about, can they take band and choir together, or orchestra and choir together? You know, the short answer is yes. It makes things complicated, and so very few students will take that option. If that's something that's really of interest to you, I would say, you know, email me, let's set up a time, we can talk about it. Let's, you know, get in touch with the school counselor. Let's see if they can assist guiding us through that a little bit, because with everything, right, if you saw the schedule that Miss Medley put up, there's one period for everything. So if we double anything, double music, science, math, anything to do, it bumps something else down the road. And Miss Medley will talk to you a little bit about planning out your 4 years, but that's kind of critical. So it's a unique situation sometimes in my world where a student might want to double those things. I went to school for music. I knew that going into high school. Planning for that would have been a benefit to me, but I also would have known, I would have liked to have known coming into high school what that would have done to my world language later on. So let us help you with that. We really are a resource, and we'll help you, guide you through that so you can make a good decision for your child. So that's it for me. I'll turn it back over to Miss Medley.
Thank you. And thanks everyone for your patience. I'm learning a lot about hiding various panels on Zoom webinar tonight. So I apologize again for the black bar. I'm going to try to find my meeting controls. I also have my trusty assistant, my dog, in the background, who had a little bit of a hard time with thunder and rain. So we're going to try to get through this without him participating, but I apologize if he does he does join in. I'm going to talk a little bit about our health and physical education program. Okay, our course structure. So in our current curriculum, each student will take the one required marking period of health. We talked about that a little bit before. One marking period of foundational or required phys ed, and 2 marking periods of team activities and or personal wellness activities. So they do get a good variety of different things. I also just want to note that our picture that was available for our gym here is the old gym floor. We have a beautiful new gym floor. So we have upgraded our facilities a little bit in the past couple of years. So our students get an opportunity to enjoy a lot of different activities during their time. Here you see our rock wall, a highly popular activity in health and phys ed. So in 9th grade health, the curriculum focuses on interpersonal skills and decision-making. That includes self-esteem, assertive communication, and conflict resolution. They also talk a lot about human relationships. And I would say even more so following COVID and everything that's happened is we really work with our freshmen, particularly in making connections with one another. And so that's the piece of the human relations part. And then in phys ed or PE 9, it's really about introduction to fitness, so fitness terms, living a healthy lifestyle, and introduction to team activities. I typically do not talk about our special education program. We typically have our supervisor for 7 through 12 special education with us. We are between staff members for that. Our new special education secondary supervisor will be starting with us in the next few weeks. So I'm sure when she gets on board, she'll be able to get acquainted and be able to answer questions that you may have. I'm sure the special services department will be sending out some more information to all the families who are under the auspices of our special education team. But we are here to support all learners. The IEP team and the case manager will definitely meet with you if they haven't already. They typically talk about 9th grade planning during the annual review meeting. It also, every student will meet with their school counselor, their 8th grade school counselor. We'll have an opportunity, and I'll talk a little bit more in the process of getting to meet the people who they'll be working with at the high school as well. We have the case manager team at the middle school to assist in the selection of courses. And they also talk to students about multi-year planning. And I know that it seems to the last few years, the feedback has been mixed on it can be overwhelming to think about multi-year planning, and when your children are 13 or 14 years old, thinking about all the way through to post high school. But it is a good idea to even think about what are your interests or what would you want to try. What are some things that you are still working on in terms of skills? And so these are all conversations for our special education students that typically happen within an IEP meeting. There are some electives available that assist with study skills and executive functioning skills. And so what I would say for now, and until you hear more information, certainly reach out. You have your advocates at the middle school, and they are available for you, as well as Mrs. Casagrande and Mrs. Hunkler, our 8th grade school counselors. Okay, so it probably feels like it's not going to come anytime soon, but believe it or not, the next 4 years, it's a remarkably short amount of time between when you see us here tonight and when I get the opportunity to welcome you to senior awards and senior planning, and you're working with Miss Thompson on thinking about applying to school or thinking about technical programs or anything that your children are going to do post-secondary. And before you know it, Mr. DeLillo is going to be on the stage at the RAC or wherever we're having graduation, and we'll be saying goodbye to them. So I like to think about, even in 8th grade, is starting to think about planning with the end in mind. And that does not need to be what are you doing for the rest of your life. We need to think about what are the things that your children are interested in doing. And one of the best ways to engage in this conversation is to dig into the program of studies. It is now a Google site. So for a long time, it was a PDF. If any of you are second-time Hillsborough High School parents, we moved it to, with the help of Mr. Lugo, I'll just give him a shout out. He helped a lot with moving the program of studies onto a Google site to be able to have a little bit more interactive experience, hopefully easier to find, a lot more searchability, to be able to read the course description of all of our courses, not just the classes that are for our 9th graders. And so I have a little snip here on the slide of a planning worksheet. There's a PDF version available that you can download, you could print, you can do whatever you want with it on the Program of Studies website. But it's important to think, well, what might you want to take, or have your children read a section? Are they really interested in the sciences? You heard Mr. Jotola and Mrs. Keel, and really everybody talk about what are the things available at the end of their journey. There's opportunities for doubling up. You heard about a lot of different requirements and how that sort of jigsaw puzzle needs to be put together so that your children are ready to graduate and that they don't get locked out of options as time goes on. So the number of courses open to freshmen is fewer than the options open to our 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. But we make this chart available because it is important to think about if your child says, I want to be in a music program all 4 years, we help find that way. And earlier in the slide, Mr. Ireland mentioned it. There is a QR code on the slide sheet. There's also the web address to find. Our music department has a nice presentation about how that's possible. Our school counselors also work with that. You can get all your requirements in and still stay in a program, stay committed to a program your child's really interested in. The same thing happens where you saw all those different advanced classes. It's common, probably about close to 300 of our students do double in science somewhere along the way in high school, whether that's for 2 years, 3 years, or just 1 year. And so looking at the fact that a student has seven class periods per year, that is only 28 slots. And for the most part, when you really start listing all the must-haves, it doesn't leave you with that many want-tos. And so thinking about that in advance can be really important. And we encourage you to talk with counselors about it. We are going to have the middle school counselors going into, I believe they're going into science classes the first week. Sometime they'll see them sometime the first week of February. They will do a similar presentation, really focused on what's available in 9th grade, to try to focus them in on 9th grade. We're presenting more information to families about kind of our whole spectrum and our whole curriculum department. That's why we have our supervisors here. But we definitely are here to help you. And I would just think about, this is not a reason to stress out, and we're not asking for a commitment of what classes a student wants to take for anything more than 9th grade. So plan with the end in mind, but also don't let this stress you or your children out. This should not be a source of stress in your house, at least not when they are only in 8th grade. So next, I'd like to talk a little bit about the scheduling process and what the next several months will look like. So I've mentioned it several times, our school counseling team is here to help you every step of the way. We will be sending in writing a little bit more about our timeline to both our faculty at the middle school and high school, and also all of you at home, to try to increase our communication, keep our pathways of communication open, give lots of opportunity for you to ask questions. All of the supervisors' emails were on the slides tonight. They are reachable and can talk through a lot of these questions that you might have. And we'll certainly try to answer some things tonight, but chances are we're not going to get to all of your questions. Or it could be that after tonight, you start to talk about something, or it's over the weekend, or even maybe when you start reading the program of studies and you have some questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. Like I said, our program of studies is available online, and that's 24/7. You have access to it all the time. Our parent portal in Genesis is the way that we choose courses and how you put in elective requests. And I don't have it noted on the slide, but I just want to make sure we have our parent portal and our student portal, and sometimes we blend the two together. For the purpose of selecting electives, it is done on the parent side. So some families decide to just use one account and it's tied to the adult's email address at home, or you use one for everybody, even though and then some families have multiple. So whoever's listed as Guardian 1, whatever the parent portal account is, that Guardian 1 is tied to, that's who will have access, and you need to sit with your child to do the course requests in Genesis that way. So their student portal, they cannot see this information, so they won't get to those screens. We'll explain that more in the letter that Dr. Trabulski will send out in several weeks. That will open with course placements. So course placements, and this is important vocabulary to think about and understand, because it is a source of some confusion and some surprise when things happen as the spring goes through and even into August and September. Placements are the courses for which students need to meet certain criteria. So that would be considered our primary subject areas. So math, English, science, social studies, and you will see world language recommendations. So placements are based in those in the first 4 that I listed: math, English, social studies, science, on all the criteria that our supervisory team went over tonight. So the math recommendation helps to determine the science recommendation. The honors honors placements are based initially on the honors interest form that Dr. Trabulski sent out several weeks ago. And then looking at the supervisors will look at that other data, the benchmark assessments, writing skills, reading skills, and they will create those placements. So those will be in there. You'll see those. For world language, they will make recommendations. Mr. Lugo talked a little bit about some students do go on to level 3, most go on to level 2. And if certainly you might see a recommendation in the portal that says French 2 or French 3. It does not mean the student has to take that. So if they've been in French and they've done really well and they get a recommendation for French 2, we don't want to have any tears over, but I told them I wanted to have Spanish. It's okay. The teachers put in those recommendations based on, and world language based on how the coursework is going, how their performance is going in 8th grade. They do still have the option to choose a level 1 different course if they'd like. So level 1 courses available for next year will be Latin, French, Italian, and Spanish. We do have American Sign Language at level 1, but as the counselors will reinforce to your children when they go in the classes, it is wildly popular option, and a lot of our students try to get into it. It's uncommon, I would say luck of the draw, that occasionally I would say in the neighborhood of 100 seats. There are probably about 250 requests for that class. And so the upperclassmen do get priority. So what we say about world language with changing at the placements there, they want to do American Sign Language. They should have a viable second option ready to go. Like if you can't get in, whether that is take another language or kick the can down the road, so to speak, and look at taking their world language in years 2, 3, and 4. So a little bit more about that. And then requesting courses that you see on here between March 3rd and March 13th is the opportunity to choose electives. So students that will be able to rank order their electives. And again, we'll send written instructions with some screenshots of how to do that. It's pretty self-explanatory. We do ask for quite a few because unfortunately our staffing and facilities limitations at Hillsborough High School right now are pretty great, and we are very tight on space because we've unfortunately gone through several budget cuts where we've lost several staff members, so we just have less seats available to students. So we absolutely work the best we can. But on that note, I would just say to think about request courses versus scheduled courses. So March through the end, really through the end of May, we're looking at requests. These are the things I want to take. And that's what those choices are about. It should in no way be considered a guarantee that a student will be scheduled for those classes. Your placed classes, your 5 primary courses, everyone's going to get. Everyone's going to get a period of phys ed, and that will vary on the number of days depending on what science class they're taking, and everyone will get a lunch. We cannot, unfortunately, guarantee anything other than that. So we want to be careful that we're not so locked into this is what I'm taking, this is what I'm taking. And I know that's hard to hear, but we like to try to set people up for the reality of our staffing shortages. So for example, I talked about the numbers in American Sign Language, and Mr. Ireland did a bang-up job of selling the culinary arts program, which is wildly popular. It is, as you can imagine, being able to smell fresh bread and pastries baking, and there's a bake shop that operates that even if you're not in those classes, you learn about those classes, you smell those classes on your way to and from some of our other career and technical classes. Everybody smells all the goodies that are coming out of those kitchens on their way to science at the high school. So another one where it's more like luck to get some of those classes in freshman year than it is a solid plan that this is all I want to take. And so I would just caution you, again, for approximately 250 seats in our family and consumer science introductory classes, we have about 475 requests. So obviously not enough room at the inn, but we try to prioritize that. But again, our super popular electives, and I'll just tell you very transparently, if your child wants to do this, have some solid backups. They say that they can say, I'll do that instead my freshman year, and I'll get this other requirement out of the way in freshman year, because then I'll be lined up to take this other class when by grade order I'm more prioritized. So definitely our family and consumer sciences, wood tech, wildly popular, guitar is pretty popular. So just think about that. Again, the counselors at the middle school, our high school counselors will be coming. You can see this, will be coming on March 16th. To talk with each of your students, and that will be during the school day. So it is, we have 10 counselors who come to see approximately 600 students. So those are short meetings, but it is an opportunity if they have questions. Basically what they do is review what you as a family have entered in that window to request courses. They review and make sure that everything looks good with the placements, that the students don't have questions about them. And then as things go through the spring, as there's maybe changes to desire about what they hear, or we have sort of a semi-last minute, oh my gosh, I realized I really don't want to continue in German, I want to start a different language. The deadline to request elective course changes, so is going to be May 26th. So right before Memorial Day, we ask that and that is all done through the time that you, through the time that your children walk across the stage or leave Hillsborough Middle School. They should be working with their middle school counselor, Mrs. Casagrande or Mrs. Hunkler. Anytime after that, we sort of transition. The supervisors and Mr. DeLolo and our administrative team are there in the summer. The counselors work some hours, but it's primarily on, it is really to do registration, to do paperwork. They do some of the scheduling. But if you need a conversation or you want some more time with the counselor, I highly recommend that you do that before school ends. And that's part of why we are setting that deadline to change elective course requests. Because we want to make sure that there's no one sort of waiting around until the end of the year to ask us questions about what might be what's going on in their mind. And I think that is about it. I can't see the Q&A while I'm in presentation mode, so I'm going to go ahead and come out of presentation mode and stop the share. And then maybe if we have any, I know Mr. DeLillo, you were on Q&A duty, so I don't know if we want to do questions from Q&A. If there was anything that you had that came up that we said we'd answer live, I can try to work on that.
I think we answered most of the questions, or in the process of answering most of them, Ms. Smedley.
Okay.
I think one of the questions that came up that you might want to address generally is that one parent asked, requests for scheduled courses. Can we provide some details on examples at freshman year? Who's doing CP classes? I guess it's a question a little bit more about levels, college prep versus honors, and what the scheduling versus request process looks like.
Okay, so we collect everybody's requests for all the grades. So 2,400 students, approximately 2,400 students, 7 requests, or 7 to 9, depending on what grade level they're in and what they're taking in terms of their level. So for 8 to 9, the primary academic subject, everything that's a required course that you must take in freshman year, which are those 5 classes. 6 classes. We talked about phys ed, English, math, science, social studies, world language. They will all be, those will be scheduled, and those we build our schedule around what those placements look like. So placements become scheduled courses automatically. We take care of that. So what your teachers recommend, and then they work with the supervisors to take a look at various data points. And if you have questions about this particular data points, I would have you talk to the supervisor specifically, but there's benchmark assessments, their grades in class, and then other reading, writing assessments that they've been taking this year, and their performance so far in 8th grade. So we take a look in February, and that's what you see loaded in the system in March. And then we're building in a week in May, and we really are doing this in May versus the end of the year so that we have enough time if there's changes in performance. So sometimes a student's really hoping for an honors placement, and they don't see that placement based on the data that was collected up through the time that we entered everything into the parent portal in March. There's an opportunity to examine any new data that's come up and take a look. At that time, we're confirming the placements for everybody. And if we're not confirming, that might mean that there's something happening in one direction or the other. Either maybe a student struggled and they weren't able to meet the criteria for an honors level placement. If that's the case, they'll go to CP. But if by May, there's the performance, third marking period really looks a lot different. There could be a consideration, there'll probably be a conversation with the teacher. How are things going? That's when we might get into a conversation with a supervisor, like what are the work habits? What's the workload like? What are the other classes that a student is planning to take? The scheduled versus requests. So that's for primary course subjects and phys ed. Everybody gets those. Electives, what we mean is there sometimes is a feeling like in the summer or even coming back to school when we are able to release the schedule to families, like I didn't choose digital and graphic arts. And I chose these 2 electives and I didn't get them. And then they're very worried and they contact the school counseling office. And we look and we take at what's there, and they did choose it, it wasn't one of their first two choices. So there's a little bit of like a common thing that happens is we get locked into, I want this and that. But what happens with the size of our school and the limitations with our staff and our facilities is that you could want this and that. But we also ask you like, oh, and we need a third choice and a fourth choice and a fifth choice and a sixth choice. Like, what are you okay taking, right? Because there's a wide variety. And if you really don't want to take guitar, then we don't want you to put that as a choice. But if you really, really want culinary arts and wood tech, we need to have a conversation like, would you be okay with Art 1? Like, do you want to try to look at like a public speaking or something else that may be? Or do you really want to, for a student who gets into, this is our first time having a co-requisite or an availability of an AP course for our freshmen. So this is an opportunity to say, like, instead of taking, if I really want culinary arts and wood tech, but I'm taking world history honors. And so if that's not available, then maybe I'll take advantage of that first opportunity in social studies. Instead of taking one of the career or electives or one of the fine art electives, I'll take my elective, my free period will be the co-requisite of the AP Human Geography, and I'll sort of like explore that humanities area. So we're really asking for flexibility, and I don't want you to, so what you choose in March is not the definitive answer on what you're going to end up being scheduled for. So hopefully that helped a little bit.
I think it did. It looks like most of the other questions on here are either in the process of being answered because they're very specific. I think one other question, Ms. Smedley, is as an 8th grade parent, can I reach out to schedule something with a counselor now to set up, or how exactly does that work? It's can we set up an appointment with counselors to go over a plan for any questions about scheduling specifically now?
You can certainly reach out to Mrs. Casagrande or Mrs. Hunkler. They have me on speed dial all through through the spring. The reason that we don't really invite middle school parents to make appointments with high school counselors is that we still have the full high school full of students. And so our numbers are in the counseling office. We just unfortunately don't have the bandwidth and the personnel to handle that. So Mrs. Casagrande and Mrs. Hunkler are your first option. If they don't know the answer to a question that you're having, or they don't feel comfortable maybe advising, or you ask a very super specific question or something that about, it's pretty common. A lot of parents who maybe didn't go to college in the United States have a lot of questions. And so they will first try to consult with our high school counselors. And also we have a fantastic, phenomenal college and career counselor, Mrs. Thompson, who, by the way, is behind the scenes helping me with technology as we speak. And we will point you to different resources that we have that are available. If you're thinking like, I know nothing about how to plan for my student wants to maybe go to college internationally, or something that's a little bit more of a niche thing, then our 8th grade counselors have a direct conduit to the high school counselors, to Mrs. Thompson, who's in our counseling office, and to me. And if none of that works, I will certainly try to help you and guide you. What I would say is counselors are a great resource where you can reach out via email. You can call them certainly at school. It's easier. We have a lot of, we still have our Google Meets, and a lot that has made parent teacher conferences and parent counselor conferences far more convenient than they were in the past. So we're happy to do that. But so order of events is try Mrs. Hunkler or Mrs. Casagrande, whoever your child's current assigned counselor is first. They'll reach out to us if we still can't do that, or if it's extremely specific. Certainly if your child's classified and you has an IEP and you have questions there, we always want to include the case manager in those conversations, because they are really watching that paperwork over those next 4 years. So we would include them as well. And same thing if we need to get supervisors, if it's a subject specific question. So times when a counselor is probably not the best person to call is why didn't my child qualify for this honors class? So a counselor can't answer that question. That the first person that we go to about how a student's performing in class now that impacts their placement into a leveled class would be the teacher. So you always start with the teacher. What's going on in the class? You can absolutely always reach out via email or phone call to the teachers. Email's generally easier for the first question, or at least say, I need to speak to you. If a teacher has questions, they know they're going to have a direct line to their supervisor. If there's things that you can, that you have questions about, what exactly went into the placement besides what the teacher knows about, in terms of benchmark and other assessments, then I would say reach out to the supervisor. But certainly for your planning, thinking about anything post-secondary, figuring out how to sort of like make it all fit together are great things for counselors to help you with.
One of the other questions I think that might be beneficial to everyone is if you don't have an elective, will you be getting a study hall? And I think, Ms. Smedley, we try very, very diligently to make sure that our students all who want classes have opportunities to take a class. It might not be your first or second elective choice, but certainly we'll put you somewhere as opposed to putting you in a study hall against your will.
Yes, yes. We do know that there always are some students in study hall, and like we said, it is an option. I think if that is something, it can be tremendously helpful. There are a lot of supports, and their structure the structure of the school day looks pretty different from 8th to 9th grade. So if your child uses lunch study well now, there are, from what I hear from our middle school teachers and counselors, there are some students who really do need that time. Maybe you have a child who is involved in a lot of after school activities. Maybe you're a family that all works together to care for younger children. Pretty quickly after high school starts, a lot of our students want to have a little part-time job, whether that's something like babysitting or lifeguarding. If you want to be a lifeguard, I can tell you people call us about lifeguarding every single day in our office to try to recruit our students for these part-time jobs in the community. And so when you're thinking about how many classes they're going to take and what the levels of those classes and what workload looks like, I will just put on my counselor/therapist hat for a second here and say that it's really important to think about what else is going on in your life. And in your life, I mean your collective life as a family. What are your other obligations? And don't forget to schedule in sufficient rest, eating, and having downtime. Having family time, having downtime where you're not doing something every second of every day. Because at the end of the day, when people ask me, well, what's the best thing for college? What is the best thing? Like how many APs do they need to do to be successful and have lots of opportunities? And the truth is, and we say this all the time, the widest berth of opportunity for your children after high school and even in the upper levels of high school is to do the best they can in the courses that they can do the best in. So I believe in the productive struggle. I absolutely do. However, having the name of a course on your transcript isn't what it's about. It's being able to do all the things within the realm of being a human being, being a student, being a son or daughter or person, and having that all together. So you want to be in the classes that you can do your very best in, without sacrificing your physical health, without sacrificing your mental health, without sacrificing the physical or mental health of your family members. It can be tremendously stressful to other members of the family as well. So same thing, if you want to talk through some of that, it can be a little bit daunting to try to figure out on your own, but think about, like, it might even be worth, if you're thinking like, well, I don't know, they do a travel sport in the spring. We can't guarantee that if you want a study hall that we definitely can get it in one semester versus another, but we're certainly willing to try. So if you're traveling lacrosse in the spring and you're going to be away on the weekends and you have late practices, our hockey players, our swimmers, like when kids are swimming and playing sports at 11 o'clock at night, we need to think about what else, how can we structure the rest of their day? And if there's ways that we could help do that through coursework, we certainly want to work with you to try to do that.
I would say, lastly, there are a couple questions on here, Ms. Smedley, that are either world language specific or science specific, and Ms. Keel and Mr. Lugo had to cycle off. So you certainly can, I took a screenshot of those questions and we can add to them more specifically. But if you are anonymous in the question asking, you might want to reach out to that supervisor that you saw earlier and more directly. Ms. Smedley, this program presentation wise is going to go up on Friday live on our webpage.
Yes, this should be live on Friday, and I'll ask Dr. Trabolsky. I don't know if he's doing any like how regular his communications are, but it's very easy to just send and say like it's up, it's live, and that way you'll have access to the slides as well, which you can just download as a PDF, have them on your phone or on your computer. We'll have them on our website as well. So yeah, everything's here, and we look forward to working with you over the next several months. And the next time, just do like a quick plug for freshman orientation. We will welcome all of you, students and families, to the high school. You'll get a lot more information about this, but the freshman orientation will be Friday, August 25th. 2023, and we'll have 2 different sessions, a morning and an afternoon. We flank it kind of with our sports teams who are practicing at the time. That will give an opportunity for students to tour the building, to actually walk their classes, because by then they'll be able to either digitally look at their schedule on their phones, or they can print it out. If you have printing capabilities, they can look to see where they might want to have their locker or request a locker. So all of that will be coming out in communication from Mr. DeLolo and the high school team. And as we get a little closer, if you want to talk, Mr. DeLolo, just maybe briefly to like other activities and sports, that things that are like coming attractions.
Absolutely. We did have a couple of questions about that. Certainly will be a lot of information to follow. We have, a full series of sports in the fall, winter, and spring. Winter's actively going on right now with more than 30 offerings overall and dozens of activities and clubs. So there's certainly plenty of opportunities for your children to be involved, and we're eager to get them involved. I think that's one of the things you'll find over the 4 years is you'll have plenty of opportunity to find something you're passionate about and new groups of friends, hopefully, and no doubt that will take place. So we certainly look forward to that involvement as well. Ms. Smedley, thank you so much for coordinating this. It was a great presentation. Thank you to our supervisors as well. And thank you all for joining us this evening, and we look forward to seeing you soon.
Yes, thanks everybody.
Good night.